It's time for breaking bread with Papa. Hey, don't you know? Hey, it's sourdough. Hey, it's time for breaking bread with Papa. Hey, don't you know? Hey, it's also a show.
Hey, everybody, welcome to another edition of Breaking Bread with Tom Papa. I'm Tom Papa. Thank you so much for being here. You guys are the best. I wish I could slice up some bread and put out some cheese and pour some wine and just give it to you. You deserve it. So, being I can't do that, maybe you should break some out yourself in my honor and celebrate as we go into a great podcast. You guys are going to love this one. Sam Sifton, the legendary Sam Sifton of the New York Times, is on our show. This is huge. He is the New York Times editor of cooking and a whole bunch of other stuff, the home section, books. I mean, he's incredible. But this guy has been a guide and an inspiration, and he is very much responsible for me becoming even more passionate about baking bread. We also, I'll get into this in a second, but we also have the great Colin Quinn, A Quick Bite with Colin Quinn, another one of my favorite people on the planet. We're going to check in with him and get a good sense of what's going on in good old New York. And I have a bone to pick with Colin because he is anti-sourdough bread. Colin Quinn is anti-sourdough bread. I know. How can I still be friends with him? I don't even know. I guess that's just how much I love him. Sam, on the other hand, when I was starting to bake sourdough bread for the first time, I was just kind of getting into it, and I had my sourdough starter, and I was learning about it and putting it out into the world and posting about it on social media. And Sam Sifton of the New York Times saw this and wanted to do a story about people and their starters and sent a camera crew out and interviewed me for a story and put me in the New York Times with me and my little sourdough starter. Hilarious picture, a big picture, as part of this big story in the cooking section of the New York Times. And it changed everything because, look, if people know you as the sourdough guy, you're going to kind of lean into it a little bit more. I couldn't not do it. I was now a national figure in the sourdough world, is what I told myself. And I had literally had friends calling from New York, like, what is happening out there in LA? Why are you in the food section? I thought you were a comedian. But it was so great. And it really made me realize, I think, that there was more to this sourdough thing than just what I had already been enjoying for, I don't know, I guess it was probably only like a year or so in. And it just opened up the depth, I guess. If you can do a whole story on it, and there were this many people that passionate about it, it kind of confirmed that my losing my mind and baking so much bread all the time, it confirmed that I wasn't alone. It wasn't a strange pursuit that I was, like Tommy had lost his mind. Sure, he had, but he also was part of a larger group who had lost their minds. So Sam, since then, we've really become somewhat of friends. I like to consider us friends. He's a great, great person, and it's kind of like when you listen to somebody or you're a fan of somebody and then you think you have a relationship with them in a way, because Sam puts out his newsletter, the cooking newsletter. And if you subscribe to the New York Times and you get the app on your phone and you can get this newsletter, it's a newsletter every week about where we are and what's going on in the culture, what's going on in the time of year, and what we're all feeling, especially during these last years. Like, to have somebody talking about everything that's going on, but relating it all to food. I mean, who, other than myself and you, dear listeners, to this podcast, who's going to enjoy that more than us? Nobody. He's such a good writer. He's so on the money. And this new book he has is called No Recipe Recipes. It's the perfect evolution to my journey with him. Because what I've been able to amass all of these recipes and learn all of these things from the thousands of recipes, like I have on my phone, in the app, I have Christmas, I have Christmas Eve, I have Thanksgiving, I have Easter, and I have logged in over the years all of the recipes that I've made, broken down by holiday, and it's been my little guidebook, my little cooking friends as I go through my life and start to host all of these big events. And they keep changing. It's kind of like what your grandmother would have, like, like a little 3x5 cards stuck in a box somewhere, or sheets just written down and shoved into a drawer. This is just the high-tech version of it, but with also the resource of like some of the greatest cooks and writers in American cooking. And so I would revisit all of these recipes and kind of, come back and try them again. And, oh, it's Thanksgiving again. I'm going to try these potatoes again, or I'm going to try this this way of preparing the turkey and stuff. And as you improve, as you get better at cooking and you get better at all of these skills, you start to improvise and you start to go off on your own. And you learn, like when I first made sourdough, I would stick to these rules, and then you start to learn and get a feel for what you're doing, and then you start making it your own. You know how wet the dough should be, or how the feel of it literally in your hands, and you start to kind of make it your own. And that's what his guide is in this book. This book is No Recipe Recipes, where it's basically, okay, here are the ingredients that you could throw into a pizza without crust, or a pasta with blue cheese and walnuts, or steamed mussels with tomatoes and chorizo. And he basically just gives you the ingredients and a little story about where you're headed. And then it's up to you. It's up to you to take it with your knowledge and your experience and try and make it your own. And I have to say, it's kind of like, it's exactly what I wanted to read at this moment, because you build up your confidence and you start to experiment. Why should you have to follow something to the letter? I mean, certain dishes, if you're doing certain, like, baking, of course, and certain French dishes, and there's certain things where there's not a lot of wiggle room. This book is basically allowing you to play with some wiggle room. Not completely off the top of your head. It's going to give you a guide. It's going to tell you this recipe for pasta puttanesca, right? Anchovies, garlic, olive oil, pasta, canned tomatoes, olives, capers, red pepper flakes, and Parmesan. And then it's just go to town. By the way, I just opened that randomly, and puttanesca is one of my favorite things to make. And it's a funny thing, when I talked to Sam, I was like, you put anchovies in a lot of your stuff, and my family doesn't like anchovies. And he gave me the secret. No one will know. Put them in. They'll just know that it's kind of salty and kind of tastes better, and they won't even know it's anchovies. Don't even tell them. That sounds like a great idea. So I really recommend this book. Go out and get it. It's No Recipe Recipes, the New York Times Cooking, Sam Sifton, a great guide in figuring out what to put into your pantry. And as you'll see when we talk to him, he's very thoughtful, and he's not just a cooking dude. He knows a lot about a lot of things, and just an all-around good guy. He gave my daughter and I a tour of the New York Times, which is such a special treat, which you'll remember forever. So we're going to have that great interview with Sam Sifton, and then we're going to grab a quick bite with my good friend Colin Quinn. And let me just put a little plug in. This Saturday night, if you're listening to this now, on the 27th, if you're listening to this on Tuesday or Wednesday, yeah, if you're listening, if it's past the 27th, you're out of luck. Well, maybe not. I think you have an extra couple days. The short of it is the sponsor for our podcast today is me. I'm doing a live streaming show on the 27th, 9 p.m. East, 6 p.m. West. I'm going to do all stand-up in your living room, on your laptop, or whatever device you want to throw it on. And then at the end, we're going to have a hang, and we're going to mix cocktails and hang out, and I'll be able to talk with you back and forth. I can see where you live, and you can see me, and we can talk and hang and drink. It's going to be a great time. That'll be Saturday, the 27th. And then I want you to go to tompapa.com because I have flights, guys. I have some flights in my phone. I'm going to Omaha, Nebraska. I'm coming to Kansas City, Missouri. I just closed a date for Salt Lake City. I have flights. I am coming. I am vaccinated. I am coming out to meet you and get us back to normal. Oh, this is so exciting. So go to tompapa.com and look up the tickets if I'm coming near you. And if not, I will come into your life on Saturday. All right. Enough of me. Let's get to it. Let's talk with our good pal Sam Sifton about his new book, No Recipe Recipes. Yeah.
Hey, Tom. How are you?
Hey. Good. How are you?
I'm good. I got to turn off some Slack notifications.
I like the scruff.
Thank you. It's I was sick of losing hair, so I started growing it.
I know. It's the migration.
Yeah,
exactly. But you're
Great
good.
Migration.
Like, I started messing around with it. It comes in so gray.
Oh, really? Mine doesn't have that much gray in it, so I'm kind of pleased by that.
Yeah, you look good.
Feeling good. How are you doing?
Good, man. Good. So thanks for doing this. This is very exciting.
Of course.
We'll jump right in so you can go about your day. Thanks so much. The book is amazing. And, this really means a lot, in all honesty. And I'm going to have a proper intro to this whole thing to begin with. But I just have to say, you have been like my cooking guru since I've been in Los Angeles, which has been, for like the last 8 years, where you cook a lot more than I did when I was in my New York apartment. And the New York Times cooking food section has been just a part of my life the entire way. And that your book is now, I feel like your book is pushing me a little further, because there's so many times when I'm so dialed into your app, I'm so dialed into your newsletter, I'm so dialed into learning and experimenting, and you've taken me through the holidays, and there are so many times I'm like, just want to be a little more bold and do things on my own, and I'm frightened to, and now you come up with a book telling us how to be a little more bold and cook without recipes.
Well, that's the whole idea of the thing. I mean, we've all of us been cooking more than we have in the past, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It's very difficult to live that takeout lifestyle when the pandemic is roiling. And so many Americans have been cooking more than they ever have cooked before. And I think gaining confidence along the way.
Yeah.
And I've talked to dozens of people who have gone down various rabbit holes. You went down the sourdough rabbit hole way before the pandemic, of course, but
yeah,
you understand what it's like to experiment, to follow rules slavishly and exactly. I thought, let's just take a break. And in the before times, maybe that break was to order a pizza, but now maybe that break is to just cook with what you have on hand,
mm-hmm.
make the flavors big and bold and beautiful, and experiment a little. You can do it. You've been cooking so much, you can do it.
I know, but it's like a little bird leaving the nest. You're like, I know you're telling me I can do it, but I don't know if I can.
Well, that's why we got a bunch of like egg recipes in there and peanut butter sandwiches and the like. That's your first step. That's your first flight lesson out of out of the nest.
Yeah. But there is that thing, like when I started getting into the sourdough and you start to understand it in a different way, and you understand like the rhythms of it and the weight of it and all of those kind of little stuff. And then you do start to branch out and make things your own. You start
Yep.
to learn what you like and what you're working for, rather than what these 5 books are telling you should be going for. And you do make it your own. And that's what's very cool about this. I love how you start off with, let's load up the pantry.
Yep.
And if you shop for the right stuff, when it's time to get creative and go to work, you're going to have this stuff on hand.
Yeah, you totally are. And what that stuff is depends absolutely on who you are and what flavors you like and what kind of cooking you do and what you're interested in bringing to the various meals.
Yeah.
For me, that's a lot of, as I say, big flavors. That's a lot of condiments. That's a lot of, that's a lot of salt. That's a lot of fire. That's a lot of,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. I mean, from following you all these years, I knew that about you already. And then to like see the list of the stuff of the condiments and the chili sauces and all this stuff. And it really kind of, the really interesting thing when I was looking at it, and it really struck me, was you're so cross-cultural. There's like, sure, there's a puttanesca, but then there's you have a real love of Asian influence. And like, how would you describe what can you even? Because it seems like it's in almost every single culture pops up in your newsletters and even in this book.
Well, I hope that's American in some way. I think that it's interesting when I look through this book now and think about the testing process that went into it and all the different flavors. And I love it when there are these kind of cross-cultural moments that could only be American.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a recipe in there that is basically totally a riff on a Mandy Lee recipe. She's a food blogger who has a great cookbook. And in the cookbook, she describes exactly a recipe that I described very vaguely, in which you essentially make like an Italian red sauce, but then you put supermarket pot stickers into it with a splash of fish sauce.
Yeah.
And it's so good and could only have happened in America, I think. She didn't create it in America, but she's American.
Right.
So that's one example. There's another one, a riff on a burger I had in Omaha, Nebraska, where Chinese restaurants all across the United States serve crab Rangoon, which is a kind of little pot sticker essentially with crab cream cheese in it.
Yeah.
And in Omaha, I had this burger with crab Rangoon sauce on it, and it was just crazy. And I was like, I gotta know recipe that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a good one. Although, do you know what the slogan of the state of Nebraska is?
No.
It fits perfectly for the crab Rangoon hamburger. It's honestly, it's not for everyone.
That's great. I'm actually heading back there. That's my first show back live. Will be next month in Omaha, Nebraska.
So it's in the whatchamacallit, in that giant theater there?
No, it's in a rock club. It's in where they can kind of distance the people and do the whole thing.
Sweet.
Yeah, called the Waiting Room. It is a good town. I know. Good people there.
Yes.
That really is interesting. The American bent. That really makes so much sense. I mean, I'm here in LA now, and there's so many parts of the culture that I haven't really, like, I'm superficially into Mexican food. I'm superficially into Korean food. But if you get the right guides and you can kind of like, they can lead you around this city, you can really, it's so authentic and you really can learn a lot. But the one thing the connection during all of this, you have been my like New York monitor, because and you were I always compliment your writing. I really think you're such a great writer.
Thank you.
But during this pandemic, you really were stepping beyond food. I was feeling your angst. I was feeling your sense of joy at times, or morose, or it was just like, but it was in a very seasonal New York heartbeat that I was familiar with, and you must have felt like you were almost using this as a journal for your own journey.
Well, yes and no. I mean, I decided pretty early. I mean, look, I've written this newsletter a long time, and I've written it through some pretty horrific news events. And I know I've always tried to be as empathetic as possible in the newsletter toward what people around the country, around the world might be feeling about a particular moment in time, because of a terrorist attack or because of a domestic terrorist attack, because of a weather event, because of the economy. And now for the past year, because of the pandemic, because of the summer of racial reckoning that continues, because of the presidential election. Like I was like, I got to practice radical empathy here.
Yeah.
But of course I can't be, and that means acknowledging when I'm down too, because I think when I'm down, others are down. And when I'm up, others are up. I'm not a special person. I'm just an American, but I am a particular kind of an American. I'm from Brooklyn, and I have a New York point of view. And it's really, I wouldn't, to erase that would be anodyne and not empathetic. Like, I got to be true to my difference. And my difference is that I'm from New York.
Yeah.
Or as we say, I'm from New York.
Yeah. And in that vein, the one really memorable moment, it was when you were, and my heart went out to you, because I know that hustle in New York, the coming into town, going to the New York Times where you work is like the heartbeat. I mean, you don't feel more energy than when you're in that square block. And your love for the egg sandwich that you would get at the deli, and that you hadn't been able to get it in so long, and you were trying to replicate it at home to the point where you were even wrapped it, because you're like, it's missing something, and maybe it's that moisture, right, of when it was wrapped. I was like, he is really going deep.
Yeah, it does make a difference. A 5-minute wrap, it really does help evoke the diner spirit.
It makes perfect sense. Oh, the one big one, which I'm so glad is a version of it is in the book, which I taken from one of your articles early on, which was so good for my bread, the matchup of the gentleman's breakfast, the creation of the garlic and anchovy, paprika, lemon butter the night before, and then going, as you say, wall to wall on that bread in the morning. And then there's other versions of it. In your original article, you was a slow scrambled egg. Yeah. And in this version, it's more of a, I don't know if it's a fried egg.
No, I think in this one, it's like a soft boiled egg.
Yeah, soft boiled egg on top, which got me excited. But man, when I tell people about that breakfast, not one person says, wow, that sounds great.
That's what I love about a bunch of these recipes. When you tell people about them, they go, that doesn't sound very good. All right, give it a shot.
Yeah.
And then they report back. It tastes pretty great.
Oh, it is the best thing I've ever eaten in the morning. It's like pounding the table good. How much do you love anchovies?
I love anchovies quite a bit, because I love salt quite a bit. Probably not as much as my colleague Melissa Clark, who I think is in a committed relationship with an anchovy. But I love them a great deal. And I love them for more than their saltiness. They do provide that extra oomph that they call umami, that body, that roundness of flavor. They're really good.
Oh, so good. And one person in my family likes them, but me.
Yeah.
And there's so many great recipes especially in Italian cooking, of
In Italian cooking, there are a lot of times, particularly when anchovy is in a sauce and it's just one or two anchovies in the bottom and they break up in the heat.
yeah.
There's no reason to tell your family they're anchovies. They don't know.
Yeah, you're right. I know. I try and please everybody. What's your family like? What was it like cooking for your family? Are there varying tastes
Oh yeah. I mean, at a certain point, my older one declared, "I don't eat chicken." What? So chicken was like off the table for like a couple of years, except for testing. And now they're off at college, so we eat a lot of chicken. It's funny dealing with people's tastes.
Yeah, man. And I made the mistake early on by trying to satisfy all their tastes.
Yeah, but then you're making 6 dinners or whatever.
I know.
It's crazy.
It doesn't work out.
I will say one thing I came across or determined I would do when the kids were little, because I was sick of having to cook all these different things.
Yeah.
I would just put all these sauces on the side,
Mm-hmm.
and the grown-ups would take the sauces and the kids wouldn't take the sauces.
Oh, that's smart.
And that worked out okay.
Yeah. It's funny. I have a my oldest is a freshman in school right now. Oh, you met her. You
Yes,
gave us
I've met her.
You gave
She's
us
my
the tour.
pal.
Yeah, you
And
gave
now
us the tour.
she's a freshman in college now.
Yeah.
That's so exciting.
So exciting. And it's pretty interesting to see that she's become this kind of experimental cook in her door. Like, they have a kitchen off of her dorm room, and they're like getting tomatoes, and they're like actively, which I really feel good about, because they left a home where you had all of that stuff.
Yep.
And you were always cooking and creating, and even in this like little ramshackle one room place, she's trying to replicate it, which is I'm pretty proud of it.
That's so fantastic.
Yeah.
So fantastic.
It's funny how hungry they are when they go to school, isn't it?
Oh, it's incredible. They come back and they're just like, they eat through the fridge. What happened? Did you eat this trimester?
So when did you start putting this bad boy together? Because the photography alone is so great.
The photography by David Malosh with food styling from Simon Andrews and prop styling from Paige it's just so great. So
yeah.
I guess it was probably a year and a half ago.
Mm-hmm.
Because book production takes a little while.
Yeah.
I will say that the images were created, a lot of them during the pandemic.
Okay.
And one of the things that I love about all of them, Paige Hicks, Simon, David, is like, this looks like my food, but a little better. I feel, you know what I mean?
Yep.
It's
That's
like,
what you want.
I got a stylist to go to the Oscars with this stuff, but it looks like my food, which I really like.
That's great.
So they put it together they put the photographs together, I guess, in early quarantine, and then we built it out over what is time?
Now we're in February. No, we're in March.
We're in March.
March
so
Madness.
Now. Yeah. Just crazy. But it came together pretty well. And it was not as painful as the last book that I wrote, because of course I'd written all these recipes for the newsletter already. So I had I had a spine.
Oh, I see. Yeah. No. The last one was the Sunday book, right?
Yes, which unfortunately came out right at the beginning of the pandemic. And it was a full-throated argument for inviting lots of people into your house. Maybe consider inviting strangers into your home.
The worst.
Collective meals. But maybe it'll have a second life.
Yeah, I know. That was my last book, was the same thing. I think it came out the day that Tom Hanks got COVID. Oh man. So how's it feel in your neck of the woods? How's it feeling pandemic wise?
I think there's some tentative hope in the air, because people are getting jabs in the arm.
Yeah.
there's also a little bit of nervousness in New York. I mean, I think there's a real desire to open up, but New York City still has a pretty healthy clip of
Yeah.
people getting sick and people dying. So, it's nervous making,
Hmm.
but it's difficult with the days getting longer and the temps increasing and these beautiful blue skies gleaming,
Yeah.
not to feel a little bit hopeful that maybe by summer and into fall, we're going to be able to gather together again.
Yeah. Yeah. I had done a show back in September in Denver, and I was speaking to a doctor after the show, and he was saying that he'd been researching it, and that 18 months is really the cycle of these pandemics and these episodes throughout human history. That 18 months is the real thing, and if you do the math from when we started, that it was like June, July was when we would be. This is without the vaccine, when we would it would naturally run its course. So I've been hanging on to 4th of July.
Nice.
That's been my hope, my finish line is like if I could be at the Jersey Shore barbecuing with my family, that would be a nice accomplishment.
Well, I hope you get to do that. I hope I get to do it as well. But I'm nervous too. As a buddy of mine said the other day, I don't want to be the guy shot in the head after the armistice.
Right, exactly. I know. Oh, here's a terrifying one. And this is like, because you kind of have these moments, don't you, where you're like, well, if I get it, I'll survive. You kind of have like that dude thing where you can kung fu your way or survive a plane crash.
Right.
Like we always have those kind of heroic moments. But I have a good friend, Dave Koechner, the actor from The Office and Anchorman, great guy, great actor. He got it last February. And Sam, he has not had a sense of taste or smell in a year.
Wow. Poor guy.
That to me seems like that's worse than death.
That sounds awful.
Could you imagine?
No, I'm just eating paste all day and living in a
Oh,
snow environment. Oh, poor guy.
yeah, he says it just tastes like tin. And I was like, all right, so this isn't just about surviving. This is about, you don't want to get this thing now. You just
Yeah,
don't want to get it.
definitely not.
No, not at all. So what have you been doing at home? What have you been cooking at home during these
Well,
recent
I'm
months?
I'm working like a madman. I got a new job at the Times during the pandemic. I moved on to the masthead as an assistant managing editor, running culture and lifestyle,
Hmm.
and so that's a lot. That's a lot. That's a lot.
Culture
So
and lifestyle. So that's beyond home?
yeah, that's at home, culture, books, style, travel, real
Whoa.
estate, food.
Jeez
Well,
Louise.
it's a lot.
That's a lot.
Um, so a lot of moving parts, and I kind of sit at the keyboard all day doing doing
Mm.
newsletters, and then I kick free at the end of the day and go down to the kitchen and figure out a no recipe or test a recipe for a column,
Yeah,
and that's really fun. So,
that's
I
great.
mean, Mike, I love NYT Cooking, and I love the resource that it provides for our subscribers. But for myself, I'm generally looking forward. I'm looking
Hmm.
to make recipes that are going to end up on the site or in the newsletter,
Right,
or in the magazine,
right.
and that's fun because it's creative and interesting and new. So
Yeah,
I'm constantly making new stuff.
right, right. That's exciting. I mean, I got excited just from opening up the book and seeing the different things to do with a salmon fillet, because my parents were like, I'm telling you, Tom, you got to order from this certain place. They come from Norway. So I have this ton of frozen salmon. And, after one or two going around the track a couple times, you're like, all right, I got to break out and do something that's slightly different.
Yeah,
And
it's a drag when I did that too early in the quarantine. I don't want to. You've got 15 pounds of salmon. You don't need more. But I ordered some from Homer in Alaska,
Mhm.
and it's so delicious.
Yeah.
But like what is this going to be like death by salmon? It's going to be like
I know.
Salmon Tuesdays. But there's some good recipes in here for salmon.
Yeah, yeah, and look, anything that just points you in the direction of trying something new, I'm just like, all right, I'm all
You're
I'm
in.
all about it. Yeah, 100%. But really, I have to say, Salmon, I truly, truly thank you, because I have in my phone Thanksgiving, I have Christmas Eve, and I've maintained these kind of roadmaps, and Easter, Thanksgiving, of course, and your Thanksgiving book was great. I have these. You have been a part of my home cooking life and these holidays, and they get updated every year. And I love when we're like heading towards Thanksgiving. You're like, hey, just a reminder, it's time to check your knives, check your platters. We're getting closer. It's been so great, and this book is such the natural progression of all of that. I just sincerely, personally, I love seeing your face, and it really means a lot. It means a lot more than just picking up someone's cookbook and learning a couple things.
Oh, you're so nice to say, Tom. That means a lot. I really appreciate that.
And it's a story I hear from a lot of people in my life, by the way. It's not
that's
just me.
great too. That's great.
Yeah.
It's an honor to be able to do this stuff and to help people out. It's a kind
Yeah.
of service, and I like that service.
Yeah. Well, keep at it, my friend. And I can't wait till I can get on a flight and come to New York and see you in person out on 8th Avenue.
Likewise in California. Looking forward to returning to beautiful Los Angeles.
That'll be the best. Thanks, buddy. Get back to
Thanks,
work.
man. Thanks, I will. Really appreciate it.
All right.
Bye.
I'll see you around. Okay, that was the great Sam Sifton. Oh, very inspiring. Really go out and get the book. Cook your face off. Enjoy your life. Now, let's get a quick bite with the legendary Colin Quinn. Let's call him and find out what is his problem with sourdough.
Colin,
Yeah,
how's it going?
good. Are we in the podcast right now?
Yeah, we are, just like that.
Then I'll say good. If you asked me how I was really doing, I'd say terrible.
No, that can't be true. It can't be.
It can't? Why?
I figured it would be good to call you because on the other guest on this episode is Sam Sifton from the New York Times.
Whoa.
Yes, and he's an amazing person, but more than all of that, he is kind of responsible for exposing my love of sourdough to the rest of the world when he put me in the New York Times. And I know you have strong opinions about sourdough.
Yeah.
And I wanted to see if you've maybe changed your mind.
Well, Sam, the word sour already tells you, there's certain products that can be sour, not many. If you really look, you've got, sweet and sour chicken, which stinks. Sour Patch Kids, which are horrible after the age of 8, and even before that. And there's a couple other sour things that kind of work, I guess, all right? But here's the problem. The problem is, when I first went to San Francisco doing comedy, by the way, everybody goes, you got to try the sourdough bread. So I didn't go in there with a predisposed shit attitude about sourdough bread. So I go to San Francisco, I went to whatever place they mentioned. I mentioned a bunch of places. And I said, let me have the seafood, what do they call it? Like mariscada,
like the chowder?
Like bouillabaisse, I love
chowder.
seafood like that. And I said, and give me sourdough bread. And the way, of course, that's what we have in San Francisco. I had the sourdough bread. It almost ruined my meal. I was like, this bread is horrible. Then I went to another place because it's just, I don't like the way it tastes. And I went to another place and just got a plain sourdough the next day. I got just a plain, because I said maybe it's just one bad. That sourdough bread sucked. Then I went to sourdough pancakes. That was even worse. So I just don't understand. Me and Tom were talking about French, how France has the best bread.
Right.
France would never have sourdough bread in the whole country. Neither would Italy. What does that tell you?
It is kind of true. When I started looking into the history of sourdough, a lot of times there's even in Lonesome Dove, the novel Lonesome Dove, the guy keeps the sourdough starter in his little satchel in his leather bag, and then would make bread for the guys on the prairie like the next morning. And it does not sound like like your most refined way to make bread, just taking it out of your leather boot and putting
And
it on
Larry
a fire.
McMurtry lived in San Francisco, I think, or at least Northern California, when it was part of the whole Ken Kesey thing, you know.
Right,
the guy that
right.
wrote Lonesome Dove. So probably that's where he got his stupid sourdough, you know, that detail. Thank God I just saw the miniseries. If I read the book, that would have ruined it for me.
Yeah, that was pretty good. They called it pot dough.
Oh, gross.
Oh man. So how are you eating in New York now? Are things opening up a little bit? Do you go to the outdoor dining or do you skip that?
Yeah, I've been going to outdoor dining for months. I mean, you know. And, I mean, the outdoor has been like this kind of weird, sad thing where every restaurant has to build an indoor space outdoors. So it's basically they're building a shitty version of their restaurant. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like when the Marines used to have to, you know, they had to build those like, you know, just half-ass things out of anything they could have, like part of a poncho and part of, you know, whatever tree they could attach it. That's basically what this is. And it's every restaurant, but you're sitting still next to people.
Right.
There's a little gust of air, so you're like, oh, I guess I'm being safe. You know?
Right.
It's really a formality at this point.
Oh man.
Who knows?
But I'm pretty excited to see that the Comedy Cellar and the Olive Tree are going to be opening up in the next couple of weeks. It really, I'm looking at flights already.
Oh yeah, I know. It's our home for it's our, you know what I mean? Like when you think about what that really meant to us to go in there every night, how important that was for a long time.
Yeah, God,
you know?
to not have it.
No.
Oof.
No, and you know, it's just you know, it means so much to us. It really was. They really created a family for comedians, you know. And don't get me wrong, there's plenty of comedians that didn't get to work there that probably hate it more than life itself, and I understand that too. If I wasn't welcome there, I'd hate it too. But for those of us that did work there, it was like a family. Let's just say that. Yeah,
no, for sure. I still, after all these years, though, miss the shawarma in the front. When you would first walk in, there would be that little area that was cranking out shawarma. I still miss that.
So do I. I feel the same exact way, Tom. It was like just seeing Hassan back there and Magdi and all of that. You know what I mean? I was there in '86.
Wow.
It was exactly that. Seeing them out there. Yeah, I loved it. I loved that part. That was a good part of the restaurant too. It connected to the street because McDougal Street is like a magic street.
Yeah, it really
is the magic place on the magic street in the Olive Tree. You know.
Yeah,
it's amazing. An amazing place.
I know.
So part of it, you know.
Oh my God, it's incredible. It's the only thing that's kind of upsetting is how Noam, who owns the Comedy Cellar, how he messed up the nachos. That was very upsetting.
Oh, he did? I hate nachos, so I don't give a damn. But
what do you mean you hate nachos?
I don't like cheese. I don't like nachos.
Yeah, what do you mean? So one of the best pizzas. I think
pizza.
The top 3 pizza experiences of my life were with you.
Yeah, but that's pizza. That's different. I hate like cheese, you know, melted cheese and all that bullshit. Blue cheese and whenever I walk in the Whole Foods in that whole cheese section, I avoid it like the plague. It makes me want to throw up.
Oh God, what was
I know. I feel bad. I wish I loved cheese.
Yeah, because you do love pizza.
My 2 biggest regrets in life is I don't love cheese or coffee.
Oh my God, or coffee. That's really weird.
Those are the biggest regrets of my life.
They're literally two of my favorite things on the planet.
Well, coffee smells great, but every time I drink it, I'm like, oh God, this is disgusting. Coffee, ice cream, all this.
What's the name of the pizza place that we ate at the bar? Remember, it was really crowded. Chindusa.
Which one? Jesus Christ. I can't remember. Right on Mulberry Street.
Yeah. It became very popular. Was it Chindusa?
Oh yeah. No, not Chindusa. Stop saying Chindusa, Tommy. Why don't you move on to pizza? Is it sourdough pizza? Don't tell me yes.
Yeah, you can make. Yeah, I make pizza dough with my sourdough.
I just don't understand that. You know, most of the public doesn't like sourdough.
I don't think that's true.
Why don't you do a survey on your show? But I think I can find out what percentage of people. You know,
like sourdough. I think a lot of people.
I don't know, man. I mean, I have to say, when I did Ruby Rosa, I just looked it up.
Ruby Rosa, that's it. Oh, man, that was the best pepperoni pizza I've had in years.
I mean, I've been to pizza, but when I think about when I was a kid, like accidentally, we would stumble into places. Like when I worked on this truck with this guy, and we'd go to this place right around Ruby Rosa, and back in those days, and it was just this pizza place, and I was like, I couldn't believe how good the pizza was. There was like 80 good pizza places when I was growing up. There's a place still around called Tadone's in Coney Island, and that was a famous one. That's still considered like one of the best. But even as a kid, I was like, wow, how is pizza this good? There's a place called Lento's. In Bay Ridge. Oh my God.
Yeah. There's still good spots in what's the place where we go and you stand up over Joe's?
Joe's.
Yeah, that place is a killer.
Yeah, they're good. They've opened a chain of Joe's, but they're all good, but they're not as good as the original, of course. You know?
Right. Did you ever try the one down from the cellar, the artichoke pizza place?
I think I tried it once, but it was not my style.
Yeah, big and sloppy with artichoke.
But I feel like Ben's is not that bad.
No, Ben's is good. That's solid, right on the corner. Oh,
you know, it's just a question of how antiseptic you want your pizza place. That's
right.
The main thing.
Right.
You want to really, you can't help but, you're eating it next to like the most homeless. You're eating it next to people that are homeless before they called them homeless, when they were still bums.
Right.
McDougal Street has some of the oldest homeless people in the world. I was looking at that one guy around the corner, the guy that sells books, and he's like a real grouchy, unfriendly. I was looking at him one day, and he told me, I have a house in Monticello, so I go up there a lot,
Oh, jeez.
A house in Monticello?
Did I ever tell you how he insulted me once?
No.
I go walking by, and he sits outside of a parking garage, and he like sells stuff and asks for money, and I go walking by on my way from the underground to the Comedy Cellar, and I go walking by. It's in the winter, and he goes, "You got any money?" And I don't say anything. I just keep walking, and he goes, "I like your coat." I said, "Thanks." He goes, "You heard that."
Oh my God.
That's why I love New York. Even the homeless guys are hilarious.
But I have to say, I don't know if you could qualify that as an insult.
It was an insult to my. It was an insult to my compassion for people.
Right. It was a judgment.
A judgment. Okay.
But it's also like Kevin Brennan. That's like Kevin Brennan's joke. Remember that joke he used to do about at the nightclub when he meets the girl? He's like, "Hey, it's really loud music. How you doing?" Right. What? I can't hear you. What's your name? I can't hear you. Can I buy you a drink? Yeah, I'll take a vodka and
Oh man, this is going to be so good. I literally want to come back immediately just to see to literally hear everybody's acts and just how they're all kind of dealing and feeling it. That's been the thing I've missed the most, just comedians' perspectives on all this stuff during this time. I can't wait.
It is interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
all right. Well, when we get back, I won't bring you any bread. I won't give you any nachos, but maybe we'll go for pizza.
All right.
All right. Love you, Colin.
Love you, Tommy. Bye.
All right, everybody. That was the big show. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you had a good time. Thank you very much to Sam Sifton and, of course, the great Colin Quinn. We will be going out on tour, so check out tompapa.com, live streaming show coming up. Like and subscribe to this podcast. It really means a lot. We're building every week and spreading the community. And make sure you subscribe so we'll get some more. And then you can check it out on YouTube, or you can just ask your Alexa to say it. You guys know what you're doing. You guys are the best. We'll see you next time.